Hello again, and welcome back to the Power Podcast. This time we're talking about forbidden powers. I'm joined with Alex and Sam. Sam, how was Spain?
It was good.
Good.
I was expecting a bit more,
That's
but
all I'm gonna say on the subject, and nothing else.
we will never speak of it again. Never.
It will
the-
never be spoken about.
Not the 120 odd quid I had to spend on DR test to get to and fro,
Okay.
or the various other odds and ends. Damn you, Britain.
I guess we'll win again. So, forbidden powers. This is going to be a little different than our last few episodes. Again, going back into a discussion topic more than an actual, just full-on explanation, because this is more of a trope than it is an actual specific power. I'm not actually talking about the mechanics of it. We're actually just talking about certain things that make up this concept, similar to the unique attribute system, and also similar to what we said with double-edged powers. However, unlike double-edged powers, forbidden techniques don't need to be double-edged. They can just be forbidden because that they have been made illegal, or because that people have a moral objectivity to it. It is entirely really based on the concept of A, do people find it immoral? B, are people thinking that it needs to be ceased upon use due to any particular wrongdoings that it may cause? Or C, is it technically ruining a mechanic of the government, and therefore that is the reason as to why they don't want people to use it? There are many other different reasons as to why a power is considered forbidden. For instance, it might very well end something or start something new that people don't want that to happen. Pretty much it is basically, people don't want you to do it, and therefore that's why they've called it illegal or forbidden. That's pretty much it. We're going to be talking about powers and techniques specifically, so we won't be talking about items or objects, and we won't be talking about specific laws or anything like that. We're actually just going to be talking about powers that are... Oh no, they are forbidden. The main one that I'll just throw up here, which is actually the main one that actually started this one for me, was bloodbending from Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. It is literally waterbending, but of the blood inside creatures, human or non-human. Just any living creature that has blood, you can puppet them and control the blood in, or even rip it out of them. They never show it in that show, but they have confirmed that it is possible through many different forms of manipulation of water. They consider it forbidden because it is literal puppetry, and it's pretty much one of the most evilest powers in the show. So that's my starting point. What about you two?
I'd like to talk about Harry Potter curses. There's quite a lot of unforgivable curses, which is pretty much forbidden curses.
Yeah.
And with things that are not I mean, I'm not going to talk about Avada Kedavra because there is actually a downside to that, where it's apparently you split off part of your soul. But there's another one called the Cruciatus Curse, which is basically the torture curse.
Yes.
It feels like it's like literally having your body ripped apart. If you do it to an object, the object is likely to smash. That's what you're doing to the body. It's like giving you excruciating pain for an extended period of time, and it gets more powerful the more angry you are at your target. So if you really hate someone, you can potentially torture them into madness, or torture them so much that their body literally breaks under the stress. And there is no downside to it. But so the point is that you go to prison if you use this. Just using the curse once is enough to land you in Azkaban. That's how seriously they take the use of the curse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I guess I'll say my first thing on this. It didn't necessarily have to be something that has a downside, because this isn't double-edged.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying.
I
Because
mean, technically, all three of
yeah.
them are forbidden.
Yeah.
Which, I like that though. I like that. Like, this is one of the main reasons as to why it's the scariest, is because that, like, you know, basically, if you enjoy the idea of inflicting pain onto them, or hate them so much that inflicting pain on them either won't affect you, then pretty much it guarantees you are going to have this person at the pretty much under your thumb, at your mercy. And yeah, it's horrible. It is literally just telekinetic torture.
Worse. It's even worse as well. Like, people with memory charms on them, they can be broken, and like any secrets that they're keeping. Like, if you have a secret embedded in like someone's soul, which is something you can do in Harry Potter, apparently, like you can just break it out of them with the Cruciatus Curse. Like, I wasn't kidding when I said that, it literally breaks people. So anybody that's like under other charms, they can literally have it broken out of them with this curse, which is another horrible, horrible effect of it. So it's literally only the law and morality that's keeping you from using this curse to horrifying extents.
Okay. Nice. Terrifying, but nice. What about you, Sam? Do you have any particular ones?
I do have a good many, but considering you're talking about ones without a downside,
It doesn't have to have a downside, but it can if you'd like.
That's what I mean. No, that's what I mean, because I'm doing ones without a downside.
Okay.
We're not. There's one I'm going to ask first if it is one, and then there's one I will say which definitely is one.
Okay.
Agent Smith from The Matrix. His ability to more or less make himself into everyone in the second movie.
Oh yeah, like a virus.
Considering that is actually an offshoot of the agent power. Considering, in the first movie, if an agent dies, he just becomes someone else. It is an offshoot of that power.
Is it actually stated that it's forbidden in the show, in the film? Sorry.
I mean, the machines actually willingly stop the war just to stop him. I have to assume it's somewhat bad. They don't like that.
Oh yeah,
I'd have
he
to
straight up
state
just
that
turns
it has
himself
to be
into a virus.
claimed as illegal or actually forbidden in the show, or at least it needs to be a banned ability that is somehow stolen out of wherever it's supposed to be. Or
I would say it is. I would say it is though, because
The Matrix?
they refer to him as a virus. Like, it's something that agents can do, but he essentially just goes rogue, and like the Matrix is like, no, he's out of our control. Stop the war.
I don't know.
Like that's Neo's trump card. Is that like Neo? Was it? He's plagued himself. He's like a plague through the Matrix, and if you don't stop him, he'll be like a plague through like Machine City.
I mean, okay. I guess I don't feel like personally it counts as one, but if you felt it was enough to actually bring it up in discussion, fair enough. Like, I don't know. I personally don't see it as that. I don't see it as really a forbidden power or technique. It's, I don't know.
Will be probably big discussion in the comment section. All two of you.
I don't really know. I don't feel like it is personally. Like, but if you two are both riding this, I guess I'll let it go, considering that it is 2 against 1. So fair
Yay!
enough. But I want to point out, it's not winning. I still don't concede. I'm just saying, I guess the two of you are unchanged by this.
Write an article length explaining why. But the other one I do have, which is actually made illegal, considering they're on the run because of it, is from Persona 5. Her power to enter the metaverse and rewrite people somewhat. More or less to make people not bad anymore. Have that power.
Okay.
And they're called the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, and the government do strictly like say they are a terrorist group and try to stop them.
Again, just because they're criminals doesn't necessarily mean that everything that they do is necessarily a forbidden power. What I really mean is, I don't necessarily mean something that is breaking the law, because that's technically then everything. Like, oh, he uses super strength to kill people, that's forbidden. I mean, that's not what I mean. I mean as in, like, using a power that is actually considered universally forbidden without it necessarily breaking the law. It being used is technically breaking a law in on itself. Or even people look at it as a bad thing. Is there a power is there a power or technique that they use specifically that everyone else either forbids or it's illegal? And I don't mean the crimes they commit. I mean the powers that they have.
I mean, their power is more or less going into someone and rewriting their self-image.
You're just psychically manipulating them, like, to be, yeah, it's like, I guess, like, it's, like, brainwashing, I guess, in a sense.
Somewhat, because it's Japanese, they explain it weirdly, but more or less, you take away their ability to not see their actions as morally corrupt, more or less.
In other words, you alter their free will.
Yes.
Okay.
You alter their perception and free will.
Okay.
And the government thinks this is bad. They get a task force on you. There are other people with this power, but they're evil.
Well, now that I understand it, yeah, fair enough. And if the government are like, no, this is actually evil, then that's evil. But also, even just, like, let alone, like, brainwashing in general is technically considered most of the time forbidden. So, okay.
Now I
understand it more.
This is for good.
It makes... Oh.
Brainwashing for good.
I should say, everyone you go against are complete arseholes.
I'm still gonna say that it counts, because I was also gonna bring up my next one, which is all of the forbidden jutsu in Naruto, and 3 of them are actually multiple times used by characters that are either good guys or eventually aid the good guys with said forbidden techniques. For instance, the Reaper Death Seal, which is literally the user summons a death god. He claims your soul, but as he's claiming your soul, he reaches his hand through your body, brings your soul out to reattach it into another person's body, and yanks out that person's soul. It is an instant death, definite kill move, but if a person has not got enough life force in them, it can still kill them regardless of if they killed their opponent or not. Now, this ability is obviously forbidden, but it's actually also a sealing ability, which it can sometimes seal another person's soul into their body as they're dying, therefore meaning that if they die, so does the other person. They use it to seal up the Nine-Tailed Fox into Naruto himself, so there's that. Also, the scroll that holds Naruto's clone jutsu is also considered a forbidden jutsu, along with reanimation jutsu, the ability to bring the dead back to life. Not very well, but they are pretty much like immortal paper clones that have all of their power, if not more, and they're immortal. They just can't feel, or something like that. There's something really weird about it. It's like they don't feel like flesh, and like they have an unease. So it's like something that kind of like it would be almost like a living hell if you were to live like that normally. But I don't know. Either way, that's sort of like those things. Like some of them use them for good, some of them use them for bad. Like literally, the Reaper Death Seal is used to try and defeat a bad guy. The reanimation jutsu is at some point used to make a point about history rather than anything else. Technically, that is considerably evil regardless. And then obviously the clone jutsu, which is considered forbidden. I think it's only because it's inside of a scroll that is sandwiched between so many different forbidden jutsus that they just don't let anyone learn from the scroll. So, again, give and take, I guess. Also, apparently, it's considered in a lot of different countries, or at least a lot of different villages and locations, putting a putting a tail beast, a massive chakra demon, into someone is also considerably forbidden, but people do it to turn them into weapons or to make sure that the monsters don't kill the villagers. So again, I agree with you on that point, Sam. Like, that was my backup to help prove that it doesn't necessarily need to be wielded by a bad guy for it to be a forbidden technique. So there you go.
I can totally see why it's forbidden as well. Like, yeah, you're right, Sam. Like in Persona 5, like they're doing it for good, but I can totally see why the government don't want this ability, to be legal. Because
I should say, if the bad guy does find a way to kill people like 5 days away, making it like a timed death by doing this technique, so that's another reason why they don't like it.
Fair
It's
enough.
like, yeah, it's so open to abuse. It's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, you could potentially like reprogram a serial killer, but you could also just kill people with a 5-day delay, and be the worst assassin. So it's like, yep, we're nerfing that, government.
Speaking of nerfing, there is also another thing which is kind of interesting. In certain like realms and worlds, demonic magic. And the reason I bring this up is because in Black Clover, spoiler alert, you find out that the nullification anti-magic that Asta has is from a devil. And not just any old devil, there are multiple devils, so it's not just, the one and only, which is what I was genuinely thinking, because I think, of course, it's the devil and he's giving the main character this power. No. But yes, there are certain devil magics that are completely incapable of people getting them without causing incredible amounts of havoc and being possessed by devils. And of course, in a lot of kingdoms and a lot of locations and in a lot of universes, devils are considered to be evil, and also any of their powers are considered to be forbidden. So that's kind of like another one to throw on the log there. What about you, Alex? Do you have any other?
Well, in fact, unfortunately, it was just another like Harry Potter one. Really, it was the Unbreakable Vow that I thought of, which is again kind of weird when I think about it, because the quote unquote downside is that if you break an Unbreakable Vow, you die. So you have extra incentive to actually do what you're told under the Unbreakable Vow. But it's apparently such it's not even considered an unforgivable curse, but it is sort of like, kind of banned still. There's like some rules against it because apparently it's so simple, like children can do it. Like there's a bit in the books where Fred and George try to make Ron at 5 years old make an unbreakable vow with them for like, petty reasons. And it's like, yeah, not really, because they're kids. They don't understand the magnanimity of it. It's like, give us all your sweets for forever or something like that. But if he fails to do it or forgets, like he's instantly dead. And apparently, like he got punished so badly by their parents, who are usually very chill, that they remembered the punishment 11 years later, because all hell rang down upon them for doing this. And it's just, I don't know, it just kind of blows my mind, really, that this is like, it's apparently so simple that children can use it, and it's like, you do not do this vow lightly.
I mean, you say that, but also later on, a 14 or 15-year-old kid also attempts to use the Cruciatus Curse, so...
No, that's true. That's true, but it's like, yeah, again, it's like, that anybody can kind of do it, but it's like, the Cruciatus Curse, there's a chance that it won't work, like it gets powered up by how much you hate people and how much you like torturing people. Whereas this... You don't need anything at all. You can make.
I'm sorry, but sometimes kids actually enjoy punishing and harming and injuring and maiming other kids. We've seen way too much, and let's be honest, most of us were bullied by someone. And let's be honest, I genuinely think to myself, it's either going to be the bullied kids or the bullies that are going to definitely use these horrible magics and not really think about the consequences.
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true. Not think about the consequences and stuff, but it's like, literally, you can like do more damage, by actually knowing what you're doing. with the Creature Archer Curse. This one, the Unbreakable Vow, it's exactly the same no matter who you are. Like, it has the same result, doesn't matter what the promise is, if you break it, you will die. And I think that that's slightly, I would say, I'm surprised that that's not an unforgivable, to be honest. Because it's like, I mean, if you don't know what you're entering into, this is just, this is a death sentence. Like, you could just literally promise something impossible, and like when you break it because it's impossible, you're just gonna die. It's just, yeah, no wonder they've no wonder they're kids aren't allowed to do it. Of course they're not going to teach it to them.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I don't know. That's
either
why
way,
I think.
Either way,
Yeah.
you have proved a point there. Either way, it is definitely forbidden powers. Any others, Sam?
I was thinking of. I was trying to think of something there, but I just got stuck in a loop of one power for some reason. From the anime Welcome to Demon School Aruma-kun.
All right.
Second season is coming out. It's like
Take a drink.
before they have what?
Take a drink, everybody. He's mentioned it again.
He's mentioned it
anime.
yet again.
Well, their power to more or less cross the dimensional plane into the human world. I don't remember what Grandpa's called on it. But he's more or less like the king of the demons, or the highest ranking demon, and he has the power to cross dimensions into the human world, which is very much illegal because humans aren't allowed to know of hell or the netherworld or the existence of them. Or you're not meant to actually. Demons aren't really allowed to actually know that humans exist, really, either.
No, okay.
It's quite funny. I don't know why that's the one thing that just went into my mind. That was just one of those things. As I was trying to think of other ones.
No, that's fair enough. Well, I guess I'll list off a few quick ones for rapid fire. In that case, obviously we've said about reanimation, but here we go. Sometimes there is chronomancy, aka time manipulation or time magic. There is, obviously, sometimes not even just reanimation, there's also resurrection. There is anything to do with life and death in the terms of being able to kill people or being able to halt or stagnate a person's life. And the other one specifically that comes to mind in this particular one is not only just time travel, but traveling to other locations, like teleportation magic or even portals to other realms, such as either going into demonic planes or afterlife planes or anything like that. And I guess others are kind of like god, celestial, angel, or monster or demonic magic. Anything that is similar to warlock powers, basically, are usually considered to be forbidden because you're getting power from something else that is unbeknownst to most. Making deals with devils or making deals with anything is always considered taboo. Yes, mind manipulation, sometimes telepathy, blood control, and probably one of the most obvious ones that we haven't actually said, power stealing. Like, that one is a very big one, a big no-no. Like, only in very certain specific occasions can a power stealer not be considered a taboo/forbidden power user. The only one that comes to my mind is technically... Even then, I still don't know. Like, I was going to say Misfits, but very little people in the world know of people's powers in Misfits. So I wouldn't count any of their powers. I would count some of them as taboo, but they're not necessarily forbidden.
I would definitely think that, if, government on a wild scale knew about those powers and knew what these kids were doing with them, they would outlaw them within a second.
Oh,
definitely. Absolutely. They'd definitely be forbidden.
To be honest, if you're going to go for that, you could just say Days of Future Past in the X-Men, where powers are outlawed.
Yeah, but that's more of a law. That's not actually like talking
That's the
about.
persecution thing.
That's more of like a law has been
Forbidden!
specifically
Our powers.
outlawing them. Like, I mean, yeah, you could say that, but that's not a power that's being outlawed. That is all powers being outlawed.
It's all mutants being outlawed. It's basically like Jim Crow, but with superpowers.
It's why I had to be
So-
very specific about this, only because I knew that if I said like, "Oh, forbidden powers," it was just based on laws, then anyone could just go, "Well, technically, if this power was made illegal, then it is a forbidden power."
Yeah. And it's like, I will say this about like the Unbreakable Vow. I'm not exactly sure of like the laws around it. Like I said, it's like, it's not an unforgivable curse. Weirdly, yeah, it's like it is just sort of like you are not allowed to use it. But I don't know if there's any actual law in like the magical world for this. They just don't teach it. They just don't really talk about it.
Yeah. There's quite a lot of different ones. I think that we've now sort of pretty much exhausted the obvious basic reference castle that we've usually built.
Have one for coin.
Go on.
Diablerie from Vampire the Masquerade. Would you count that as a power, Alex?
I think that's more of a practice really, because you're drinking the blood of vampires, and I guess that's power stealing really, because you're taking all of their powers and memories.
Either way,
aren't
it's a certain practice or technique. Does it give you powers?
Oh yes,
Then yes,
more or
'cause
less-
it's a
more or
practice
less-
to gain an ability, but it's a taboo practice to do so.
Oh wait, Diablerie. Well, in most cases, unless you're like the Sabbat, but most like clans of vampires or coteries, except that Diablerie is wrong, because Diablerie is when a higher generation vampire like eats a lower generation vampire and more or less steals all of their powers and makes them a lower generation, which is good. Because being lower is very good and being higher is bad, in very general terms.
Okay. So
Plus, it's like
Just-
all vampires would do it if it was allowed, because it's like
Yes.
it's basically going to be a free for all of like trying to like it'll be a battle royale. Like,
I mean, there is a battle royale that is that. It
see
came
what I
out.
mean? See what I mean? It's chaos. What you've done, you've created Fortnite. That's what you've done. I hope you're happy, vampires.
So we got those. Now I guess it's time to move on to the next section where we actually discuss something about this, which is if you could specifically consider if for instance if you were to consider a power from let's say the powers from the current villain campaign that you guys have seen, what would you, or even like from the dev plays or even from Animite Tales in general, what would you make forbidden?
Well, I think you know what I'm going to say because I was on record of going ew when this was brought up, and mind controlling people into either finding you sexually attractive or having sex with them, like essentially sexually assaulting them via telepathy.
You know what's funny is that like you're the only one who's brought this up because it was a line of dialogue where it's like, oh, we could get you sex, money, what was it, sex, money, and power, and it's like, oh, I can get all of those just with this, and he taps on his forehead, and no one asks for any context, and he doesn't give it, and you were the only one who went ew, and from then on you were like, no, I believe this guy is a sex offender. I've not confirmed or denied whether or not Psyche is actually.
You know what?
that,
That's
and I'm
even
not
worse because it's like the ambiguity. It's like my imagination. Where it's like, what does he mean by ew?
Because on one hand, he is misunderstood. On the other hand, he is really, really f***ed up. So either way,
He
it's funny.
was going to jail when we met him, so I'll let
For
him
multiple
make with
accounts,
that
but it's
what
up
you
to
will.
you to believe what. It just turns out that he just forced one of the higher ups in the government's wife to sleep with him or something, and it's like, how dare you! Immediately going to jail now. Maybe.
But with his mind powers, he'd be just sort of like saying, "Oh yeah, you now have a cuckold fetish now," and it's like, "Oh, this is good actually. All right." Like, see what I mean? This should be forbidden. forbidden because that's like
Yeah.
you can get away with anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair enough.
so gross.
What about you so far that you've seen, Sam? Moving on very swiftly.
We'll turn this game into Legislate Larry, so we will.
Well, no, please don't.
I mean, to be honest, I'd probably put luck manipulation into that pile because, let's be honest, at that point, you could still do the same thing with women. You just manipulate luck, so you get one, they'll be right into you.
It doesn't.
Let's be honest,
It doesn't
most other
affect a
things-
person's will, though. Like it's just purely coincidental that you're able to do the exact thing that you need for them to find you attractive, rather than bending their will. You're almost bending the circumstances.
Still,
I'd say
though.
that I see Sam's point, but it is like kind of different. It's like
Also, let's be honest. Anytime you go to a casino,
I was just gonna say, like any other
play
particular
any game.
argument, like literally any other argument, considering that like luck manipulation should be forbidden in certain situations. Like, oh, you can't use your powers in this casino, sir. You have to have these cuffs because otherwise you are controlling the very like essence of why it's considered gambling. It's not gambling if you just win all the time. So yeah, no, I see that.
pretty much any power as well that involves, manipulating things would be banned in a casino, I think, because, you'll have like telekinesis and you move the dice slightly. I think there was a Twilight Zone episode where like they basically scammed a load of casinos because they made the dice fall exactly the right in the right way all of the time with this guy's powers.
Mm.
oh, seen that one.
That's a good one.
I thought you were going to talk about the one with the hell dimension, where hell he just won every time at the casino.
Oh yeah, but it's like that. I mean, yeah, that because like the fun was taken out of it, but it wasn't so much forbidden in that way. It's sort of like it was just this guy's personal torture chamber. Where
I have one that I think that I'll say, and I like, to be fair, this is probably the obvious one. This is the obvious choice, and I just think basic bitch over here saying, I just think the ability of decay would immediately be considered to be forbidden, especially used against humans, but specifically just in almost any situation. If you want me to go based on all of the characters that are currently in the group, or all the people that you've met so far, it would probably obviously be Pestilence, considering his power can literally erase parts of space or anything that's occupying a bubble of space, as well as he can decay things and harm things through spatial distortion. I'd say probably him. If I wasn't allowed him, I'd probably go with Talos, because the manipulation of gravity to such a massive extent and degree, as we have now seen, it's so unfair. It's so powerful. So in universe, they would probably outlaw that, because it's like, look, you're messing with the laws of physics.
It's really like the same with like Toxie's powers as well. Like there are like positives, to poison generation powers, like intoxication. You can like make people's drinks stronger, or be on the side of good guys to create like poisons to get rid of like domestic pests and stuff. But pretty much all of my abilities like have a lethal capacity.
Yes, but it's
like, there's no way of getting around
lethal
it.
capacity, because I mean, if you think about it, you can still use insect spray to kill someone. You can still use rat poison to make a person sick. You can use a poison that could kill insects to kill other people, and so on and so forth. There's so many different ways. I mean, like, specifically, obviously, alcohol. If you put something extra strong into someone's alcohol, you could actually inebriate them faster, and it could very well kill them due to alcohol poisoning. There's a ton of different ways that you can use poisons in the real world without necessarily having that power. So just having that power would mean that, are you using it for more domestic use? Are you using it to further factory builds of certain things to further intoxicate things? Or are you literally using it for the sake of death, violence, and war?
Well, that's the thing, because there is one ability that I haven't got the chance to use yet, but it is basically sending a character into fatal moments with this, devastating poison. And I think there are laws in this country, like you can buy like rat poisons and stuff, and use it for pests, but cyanide, you can't buy it, domestically for obvious reasons. And I think that that's like the equivalent of that power. It's like it's forbidden for that reason. Like it's just an incredibly powerful poison that's basically undetectable until it's too late. And yeah, I would say that that's a forbidden power. I can
Yeah.
do it, but I'm definitely going to be outlawed for it.
I mean, when the power I have, like, was it animate that Elizabeth that Leia has, animate dispersal, animate power beam that attacks people. I can't think of any good reason that that would not be made illegal, considering all the superhumans that exist in this
More
world.
than likely, it would be one of those things where it's like, I mean, it's similar to super strength. Having it is not illegal because it's just so specific, but similar to decay, it's that thing of like, oh, it specifically only damages people. But I still think just like decay and super strength, it's like, you can have that power, you can own it, and you can use it to a certain capacity, but if you use it to harm, maim, or kill someone, and it's not out of self-defense, then it's possibly like made illegal.
I mean, even with super strength and decay, there are legitimate reasons you could use that without hurting people. Super strength, you can lift things. Decay, you can break things down that aren't organic. You can break sewage down. You can break like plastics in the oceans. There's nothing I can see that would be useful with animate dispersal.
I mean,
that isn't
unless if it's powering a generator that requires it, you are kind of right there.
Yeah, considering with that we've changed it now, so until level 10, all it does is animate damage. So it doesn't hurt anything else. It does not affect anything else except for superhumans.
Well,
The people with animate in them.
Yeah. I would say I don't think that they'd forbid it. Mostly because that it's just a power that yes can harm them, but like I just don't think they'd forbid it. That being said, however, I would say that a power that would 100% be like on the forbidden side would possibly be technopathy and reanimation. The ability to go into any and all pieces of technology and the ability to reanimate dead creatures or dead people. I think those two powers would and should be outlawed in the module's lore. I think that they would / should, especially if they knew about those particular powers. If they didn't, then they probably wouldn't know about it, but it would probably immediately be a call into question sort of type of thing. I don't know if you guys have any opinions against or for that.
I don't know about reanimation though. I mean, yes, but I don't know if it's like it depends on what kind of reanimation, really. Because if it is sort of like, giving someone, the personality and stuff back, having them actually get free will and just like bring the dead back to life. It's not just making zombies, or
but
like
that's just giving it excuses.
Well,
also,
well, no, because like because like. If that's like if I'm brought back into my own body, right, and yeah, sure, I'll be like inside a corpse person, but I'm still like alive. I'd be very grateful to still be like have my consciousness still there. I wouldn't like to be enthralled to a lich, but if it's just bringing me back that way, I wouldn't say that's necessarily bad.
So you're saying resurrection, but without the new body. It's just literally your old body, and it's still dying and decaying.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like, you bring me back enough to, like, maybe catch my murderer or something. I wouldn't say that that's, like, it's not great existence, but it's like, I don't know if
it would be considered forbidden. I still think so. Regardless, I'm not saying that it's an evil power. I want to point this out. I'm just saying that in lore, in universe, it would make sense that power would be considered illegal, or at least considered forbidden. Morally or objectively.
I mean, let's be honest, quite a lot of the heroes would probably choose that, because, let's be honest, quite a lot of them will die at some point. But, like, let's say Veribus dies. At that point, the world may be screwed. So he'd be like, well, just bring me back. I may be decayed a bit. I'm still super strong, yo. It still protect the Earth. Even after death.
I still think you're both crazy, but I mean, I like this though, that we're having this
Yeah.
discussion, that we're actually having this debate, because I like
And-
this subject because of it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it totally will depend. Like I said, because I don't really see like being a corpse person, as like a bad thing. If it means that I get to like help people in the future, I get to do things. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's like I wouldn't exactly be jazzed about being a corpse person. Like I'm not exactly go, oh yeah, I would love to be living inside my own corpse for a bit. But it's like it's essentially just like it's still resurrecting me to some extent. I'm still performing, a task that needs to be done. And I think that yeah, there may be some moral ambiguities around that for some people, but for me, I'd be okay with it.
Okay. I guess I'll have one last one, which I'll say probably time powers, just the manipulation of time. I always think that would be
Oh, yeah.
considered taboo in most regards. I think we're all agreeing on this because of how powerful it is, and also in game mechanically how powerful it is.
It's just powerful all round, and it just screws over continuity,
Yes, yes.
Continuity alarm.
I'd say the last part of this section is actually probably the one that I was looking forward to the most. If you guys were in a campaign and you guys either were the narrators or you got to have say as to what kind of powers that we've so far confirmed that are going to be in the game, not ones that we're currently working on the sidelines behind closed doors, but in the ones that we've currently confirmed in the game and currently confirmed on stream. So it can even be ones that we haven't shown on stream, but again, not ones that we're still working on. They actually have to be on the actual written down components. In other words, I'm talking about the one that we're currently working on, Sam. But as a narrator or as a character or player that got to decide one power, each of us, that we think would either be considered to be forbidden or you'd forbid it from being allowed to be used in a campaign, what would it be and why? This can come from any of the races, and it can be any power or any power-based mechanic. But you have to say what it is and tell me why.
I think I personally would ban brainwashing.
Okay.
I would ban brainwashing because we've seen what happens with that in game, and like, for me, it's like in other games it'll be like totally fine, but for my game, if I was doing it, like brainwashing would just be so OP, like it's so difficult to actually counteract. Like we literally the one time that we had it happen, we had a time child like erase it and get us out of that situation. And like in another time where it happened, where like someone implanted memories in my character, I still have that, even though I know that it was fake. Like my character knows that these memories are fake. Those memories are still in there. Like that still fooled them a little
Like
bit.
a vivid dream.
Yeah, and it's like it's just like that's not going away ever. And it's like yeah, it's just so out of control, that power. And like yeah, it's I mean you have to get to a very high level to get it in the first place, but for me, especially if I wanted like something that wasn't like mind based, was like physical fighter based or something like that, I would probably forbid it. Not that
Okay.
it wouldn't exist, but it would be like outlawed because it's like it's just so crazy, the implications of it.
So in law, or actually mechanically, like I'm saying, like as a DM
Yeah.
or as another player, you say, by the way, can we have it that in this world there are no blank powers or blank characters?
I would say yes. I'd say both really. Because because so many times like telepaths have completely wrecked us, and like just so much, and it's like it's so easy to wreck people with these powers, which is partly why I love these powers. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I've carefully crafted this campaign. It's like, oh, I've just brainwashed them into telling us everything. I say, oh yeah, I've just read their mind. There's, they're going to, this whole bit of lore is now been revealed in the first session. It's like, oh,
Okay.
well,
What about you,
You know.
Sam? Then, like, do you have any opinions against or for what Alex has said, or do you want to go into yours?
I mean, I do have to agree that I. Let's be honest, telepathy, I probably wouldn't give to the players. That's, you know, at that point that does make the game very easy most of the time, especially when you get high up to mind control levels. Then let's be honest, who can you fight besides other telepaths?
Willpower users.
But they could still be easily defeated because the highest willpower you can get is like +6, I think.
No, it's +8,
Whereas-
and also with Make Do you can have +10 anyway. Plus, if you
I know
get the ability Denial, all you have to do is succeed the roll. You don't have to beat anyone's roll, you just succeed it, and it stops willpower working. Well, it stops
Again,
mind
so-
power working. No, can't speak.
You have to. So pretty much you have to get someone. Let's be honest. That being true, the odds of that happening are incredibly low. Considering
there is
how-
one thing. There is one thing that can counter it, though. I've remembered in in the mind powers. You know, the absolute mind or whatever it is, but the powers that Irving had.
Oh, yes. Hyper Instinct or Adaptable...
Adaptable mind. Yeah.
Adaptable Mind or something. Why can't I remember the name of it? That's so weird. Adaptive
it's
Mind.
like-
There we go.
Has a telepath just got inside your mind to stop, revealing the secrets? I mean, because there was like one thing, and it never got to use it, which is really funny actually, because it was like the perfect one where I could literally trap telepaths in my mind if I with my powers. So there was a way of fighting it there. It had the perfect counter, and I also made an SPMA that got telepaths, gave them like mental illnesses if they got trapped in my mind, and then were like just went back out. So like they were not going back out into the world clean. Like
It's
I would just mess them up
PTSD
in
from
my
the fact of
mind.
being pulled into a nightmare realm or something.
Yeah, basically. So it's like, but yeah, it's like, yeah, if you just start off with really high telepathy and you have no counters to it, it's just so hard to take them down. Especially if they've got an imagination,
I see it.
Yeah.
I can see it. What about you, Sam? What would you deny
Would I-
as a narrator or as another player saying, could I actually have this thing not exist in this campaign?
Just in the campaign, or just like as laws in the world.
Okay, well, if you have one for two, you can tell me. But I was actually more thinking just mechanically, like as a narrator / DM GM.
Probably anything related to time. So
Yeah, fair enough.
the time omegans. Maybe.
Would you?
I was going to say no, not that. It probably would just be
bad luck?
time and telepathy. No, because so far I've seen luck to be somewhat crap. No, I'm joking.
I mean, that's just because it's us, though. That's just because it's us.
I don't know. I still think that
Need luck.
Graham's used it very well.
Yeah,
Thing is,
but
we don't
still,
know
he's
how
got
he's used
time
it.
on it.
He every time that I get a natural 20, he uses up one of his tokens and says, "No, you don't," because they have two sets of tokens where they can make someone who gets a natural 20 re-roll, and they can make a random roll instantly a natural 1. However, they can also do the same thing where they can re-roll a natural 1 for themselves, or they can make something instantly a natural 20, and they have a stockpile of these tokens. Once they're gone, they can't use those, but they have got other abilities known as lucky actions, which allows them to roll their SP alongside a stat roll. And it's basically, say for instance, it's persuasion with SP advantage, meaning that they can roll persuasion and then roll SP. Whichever one is higher, that one is the winner of that particular roll. For instance, you're going up against someone with super charisma, you can roll this, and it can mean that you have nowhere near as much of a disadvantage or something. So lucky children are very overpowered in some regards, but they run out of a certain amount of their power.
Again, like if they allow halflings in D&D, I would accept lucky luck children. Considering they have more or less the same powers, weirdly enough. And
Wait,
Roughly,
halflings.
It
yeah,
would be
roughly.
we will have to see what happens in the next stream session because Graham's used up all his tokens, hasn't he?
Yes, he's used up all his tokens, so a lot of his lucky like he's gonna have to work on his lucky actions, and I don't know what lucky actions he actually has because he's told me
there's
a few,
that.
but I'm not entirely sure on all of them. What about? No, go
They're
on.
token based. So like that's as well as they do have a massive downside. They're like wizards. As soon as they waste all of their like tokens or their spell levels, they're kind of crap at that point. They're kind of somewhat humanoid.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So that's why I'd accept that. Whereas Time Children, they can just immediately erase everything that has happened, and they can just stop death. Like, no, I saw this happening from the future.
Okay, you're putting all three of them into one, like literally.
I know.
Literally, that's all three.
No,
of the
there's three
separate
different
ones. You have to have three separate characters that have those exact abilities. One is to rewind.
That's what I'm
one
saying.
is
All three of them. I would not accept any of them.
I know, but like you're saying it almost like as if like one character has all three powers, which is not only impossible but is also very well. Just, like literally, there's no way of doing it.
Oh, I was just being generalizations, okay? Joe?
Well, how dare you generalize? I am now offended.
Good. I'm glad. So what were you going to say?
I'd
Before I
say
generalized?
I say the power that I would actually ban in a campaign personally for me is if I was doing a big sort of like survival arc campaign, I would possibly state that a power that I would immediately disable is any power that allows you to travel. So teleportation or alternate dimension travel. I use this a lot in this particular argument. I usually say, in fact, even in the mechanics it's written, that multiversal travel is an optional thing for the narrators to allow, which is why it's like a special extra optional power that is allowed if the narrator allows them to be able to harness or wield or be allowed to even have it. And this is all because obviously it completely derails a campaign. Teleportation could completely derail a campaign. If you have like a monoscope or even a binocular or something like that, you could just look off into the far distance and teleport. Or if you had a high enough level, you could teleport anywhere and just be like, cool, I'm gone. I'll just be at the next town over or something. And it's just that immediately could neutralize the survival aspect. Like, if someone said to me, like, oh, but what about a character that can regenerate, a character that's immortal, a character that's fine, but they can't pass it on to other people, and they can't just completely nullify the very reason of the aspect of survival. Because even if you have, like, immortality, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're perfectly immortal. Even if you have healing factor, even if you have, I don't know, for instance, the ability of, like, fire immunity in a desert or cryo immunity in a tundra, you still will have problems of the wildlife starving to death, thirsting to death. There are so many different ways. So in a survival campaign, I just wouldn't allow teleportation, or at least I'd try and make sure that people sort of went away from it. I will say this, as a narrator, as a DM, I've never disabled or disallowed anyone from playing anything unless if I was specifically trying to pinpoint a specific way of playtesting. For instance, I might say everyone has to make an anomaly, everyone has to make a superhuman, everyone has to make a blah blah blah, or everyone has to be one of each race. I've never said this power is not allowed, unless of course if it was one that was still being under maintenance, which in all honesty that does not come up at all anymore because pretty much almost all of them are finished. So
it's like usually it's overuse now. They say no to powers. It's like, well, we know what these powers do now, which is fair because we're playtesting it. You know, if we've completely playtested something,
so
there's no point.
It's funny that you bring this up because I was actually going to say if Bill was on here, he would actually specifically say one for campaigns in lore-wise. He wouldn't say that it was disabled from anyone using it, although he might do, which was spatial. As a damage type or as a power. There are two different spatial powers in the game, but there are multiple powers that can access spatial damage. For those of you who don't know, there's the embodiment type that is basically your powers embody the concept of space, and then there is then finally the power of spatial mimicry known as Spatial Child, which pretty much both of them operate in two relatively similar ways. you can pretty much... It's basically a special type of physical damage. It can ignore physical resistances and immunities, and therefore it's very OP. It can do all sorts of different weird stuff. You can alter space, have your own pocket dimensions, blah, 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 blah. But Bill has told me on many occasions too many people have it. It is too abundant. For instance, we've had people who use it in weapons. We've had people who use it as a secondary damage type. We've had people who can use it and wield it thanks to a secondary function of their power. For instance, Bill even said, the thing is that I enjoy using Talos, but Talos is not immune to this ridicule. He's also got spatial because he's using gravity and it's bending physical matter as well as space, because that's what gravity does. You've then also got Johnny in the HC's Villains campaign that we did, where you had the power to shoot bullets out of your fingers or turn into a gun. That then eventually did spatial damage. And so on and so forth. And I looked at this and I was like, I really hate how many spatial uses I've used. And I realised it's possibly because it's some of the most interesting and utilisable power. Because it's not just for attacking, it's also manipulating the battlefield. And it can seem like physical attacks. And that is to me, that's probably one of the coolest parts. So I'd possibly, in the next one, ban people from using the spatial power and spatial damage type just to see how people go. I will point this out, this won't be in the villain streams because the dev plays, no one is disallowed anything. As long as it's within the rules, the regulations, and what I've specifically set for the guidelines, I don't mind as long as I have absolutely A-okayed and allowed it. I just needed to have obviously seen the notes on it and okayed it myself, so that then I can definitely say yes. But I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. As a narrator, I am 100% okay with freedom. The only reason I say with the other campaigns that we don't stream is because that I have sort of been called out and said that like spatial has been a way too abundant, so I won't be using spatial for quite some time in the next couple campaigns that I'll be doing. Players can use it, but
that's sad. That's sad for me because spatial is unblockable. It's very OP, and it's like if you want to strike fear into anyone's heart, playing this game, it's like spatial damage, and it's like oh, but. On the other hand, I totally see your point.
Yeah.
It's like there is so many... For that reason, there's so many spatial users that we've had. Because it is such a cool OP thing.
Considering it did take down me in my shadow form when nothing else could, more or less.
That was more just because that you found a limit to your fake mimicry unique attribute.
That's what I mean.
I would say personally, like if we were to end this with any particular thing that I was to say, a power that I would absolutely forbade, or absolutely forbid, I would possibly say this, and this is just going out there. I'd probably say that out of every single power that I've ever seen used, I don't care how powerful they are, how weak they seem, or how silly they may or may not be when they are being used. I have no problem with any power in any particular usage, so long as it does not make the players feel uncomfortable. But there is one power above all else that I would definitely be like, yeah, if we could stick away from this, that would be great. And it's possibly more than likely just any... I don't mind them being used. I don't mind the powers that have them. But I'd have to say it's any power that has a pocket dimension. Purely because you guys have a freaking infinite space, or at least a very large space that you can just keep with you, carry with you. You have a home base, and in certain situations, it's like the perfect escape route / defense. So that's why I would say that I would, if I were to ever be that a-hole DM where I just go, no, I'm not having this. Your third level power's gone. I would do that if I was that horrible. I've never done that, and I never will do that. But if I was like that, I would say no to that, because I don't think it's overpowered, because there are a lot of limits to Pocket Dimension, but it still always lingers that I feel that. I feel like any particular race that would be banned is maybe either Omegans or Husks, mostly because, well, you've seen Leah in action, and you've seen Lucas in action. They're quite powerful. I don't think that I hope they would never get banned, those races, because I love them.
Now to do like forbidden powers in lore.
But I think that's pretty much it. I cut out just for a second there for you guys, but the recording.
I mean, not just a second.
Oh, okay, never mind. Well, you guys didn't hear that, but either way, that is the end of the Forbidden Powers podcast. Well, to be fair, I think we got through quite a lot of stuff. To be fair.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, apart from like the end bit, which I hope has come out okay. We were just sort of like, you know, I don't know if it came out in the recording, but we were just like, Joe.
No, it wouldn't have come out. No. I was wondering why you guys were being so quiet and so uninterruptive.
Objection!
So, in that case,
I'm
not sure what we should do for the next session or for the next particular Power podcast or campfire discussion, but if anyone at home would like to comment, please leave them underneath this video. And thank you very much for listening. Do you guys have anything that you would like to add to this? Maybe any particular things that you might want to do for the next Power podcast?
I know what I want to do.
Or
I know what I want to do.
I've
been wanting to do it for a while now, but I would want to do effigy animation. I just want to talk about it because it's I don't know if we've actually really talked about it in depth on this podcast, but I just they've sort of teased the things of a character I want to play and of certain movies I've been watching with effigy animation.
Okay.
I've been hearing about constantly. I mean, I'm enjoying it. Better than Rift Tracks.
Alright then, well, we'll get back to our first ever power with effigy animation. So, thank you very much for everyone for listening. Thank you, Sam and Alex, for coming on. And thank you again, me, because I love meat now.
And he's humble too,
me.
I started building it up and I realised I didn't have anything else to thank. I thanked everyone for listening and I thanked you guys, and I was like, I sounded like there was a third one.
Hey! Self-love is important.
And thank Discord for always failing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a good night.
Bye!
See you in the future.
And as always, ciao ciao for now.